Okay. It's so good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
You bet. I love photography. I've been an avid photographer for a long, long time, from the darkroom days, which people probably don't realize in younger generations. So I'm looking forward to delving into that world. I want to begin with this. I always do. The pandemic was such a big deal. And 5 years ago, it was rearranging and changing so much of our lives. How did you get through that? How did it affect your business model and the way that you live life today?
Yeah, the pandemic was a changing point for me. I've been doing this for 30 years, following in the footsteps of my parents. And I think the biggest thing that helped me during the pandemic that other recessions of previous years did not have was that I had a network of and a community of people around me. So not even just photographers, but bankers and HR people, so that when everything shut down, I had dozens of people that I could contact and say, what are you seeing in your field? Because as a photographer, I don't just work with marketing companies. I work with HR so that when you bring a new employee on, I take their headshot for their onboarding process. And so when all that money came available for PPP funding and the uh, what do they call that? The economic impact loans. I
Yeah.
was able, my bankers were contacting me immediately, and it actually leveled me up. And so even though business was down about 15%, I actually have a huge foothold in medical photography. And so that pushed me through the pandemic because they stayed open. They needed to show that they were doing things to help protect people. And so my business actually did not go down as much as I had feared it would. And by the time we came out, I had leveraged up from a financial standpoint.
So, if we wanted to get a direct handle on exactly what you do in the realm of photography and being, an entrepreneur, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds and it's career day. And one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living on a daily basis. What's your answer?
Well, if we're talking to 12-year-olds, I might change my strategy just a little bit. But I basically would tell them I take photographs for businesses to help them get more customers. So that's the 12-year-old version.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to adults, I say that I bring along a visual branding strategy to help companies further their brand, but also speak to the stakeholders. So it is only B2B. I have a staff of 9 different people that are all 1099 contract workers that help me fulfill the needs of my clients. We travel nationwide, helping different customers just really get that visual identity as sharp as possible.
So, you said this is a family business, correct?
It is,
How
yes.
far back does it go?
3 generations.
Wow. So, go back to so was this always kind of drawn in your map of stars that you were going to be a photographer, or were there dreams early on that were different? Like at 12, what was your dream life?
At 12, I was going to be a competitive ice skater and skate for ice capades.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I was definitely going to do that.
So how did that materialize? How did all of that happen?
So I was born in Columbus, Georgia. Not a lot of ice rinks down there, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And my parents got divorced when I was 6, and my mother fell in love with a photographer from Indianapolis, Indiana. They
Okay.
met in Denver at a convention. My mother and my father departed pretty amicably, and they decided that since my brothers were 8 and 9 years older than me, that they should stay in Georgia with my father, and then since I was younger, I should go with my mother and live in Indiana. My stepfather, commercial photographer, but also avid hockey enthusiast, had me on ice skates as soon as I got up here, and I just fell in love with the sport. And so I did that both from a competitive standpoint, and then I also coached professionally until I was about 23 years old, 24 years old, and was doing that alongside coming into the family business as well.
So what kind of wear and tear does it? I know with dancing, it can be really hard on dancers as they grow up. Was that the case for you, skating on
Sure, yeah.
ice?
I had a couple stress fractures in my back. I had chipped a kneecap that had to be surgically repaired. Right now, I can stand up and you will hear my hips pop every single time I step up.
Wow.
So yes, it was physically demanding. I'm doing better than most of my constituents who have had to have hip replacements. So that I've got some arthritis in my hips, but the lessons and discipline that I learned from that were well worth any type of wear and tear I have on my body.
So how did you segue from ice skating to photography? What was kind of your career evolutionary beginnings?
Well, everything is a train wreck, when you have to make decisions quickly. And
Yeah.
so my stepfather, and remember, this is the time of Mad Men, where the ad agencies were having martini lunches and the 80s were big. And even though I didn't come into the business in the 80s, that's when my stepfather was like everything.
Yeah.
And so girls can't do commercial photography. That's a boy job. And he wanted me to be a wedding photographer, and I wanted no part of it. I still hate weddings to this day, not just shooting them. I don't even like going to them.
Yeah.
And so I went through college. He told me he could teach me everything I needed to know about photography. He wanted me to get a liberal arts education so that, as he said, I can speak to the senator and the janitor. He said, I want you to be able to speak to everybody. I'll teach you everything else you know. And so at 21, I came into the business. And by 22, my stepfather had a stroke and was taken out. And so I didn't really have much of a choice. My mom told me, I mean, there was a choice, obviously. She said, you can either take it over now or I need to close it. And so, being that I was so young, I thought I could do anything. I took over the business 23, 24 years old, was when I finally, realized that it was going to be mine.
So did you like taking pictures or was it something that
Loved it.
okay, so
Loved
you loved
it.
it.
I had a camera in my hand from the time I was 6. Knew how to use it on my own, shooting film with no meters or anything by the time I was 10.
So what was your formative camera that you learned on?
Um, the my always got my mom's hand-me-downs, and so I got mom's Canons. Every time
Okay.
she got a new Canon, she just passed me down one. The one that brought me to my knees was the first digital camera I bought. Size of half of New York City. It was so big, and learning how to use that. It was a Leaf Vallejo hybrid on a 4x5 Cinar. And learning how to use that. And it was about 1996 that I learned how to use that. And I thought I mean, I just crumbled. It was just the learning curve was rough.
Did you resist going from paper to digital? Was there anything in you that was, oh, so you were ready to dive in?
Well, remember, I was young and stupid. So, you,
Okay.
you got to start there.
Sure.
But luckily, my parents and my grandparents were pioneers. So, my grandparents went from black and white film to color film, jumped right in. And by the time my stepfather got taken out of the business, he was already starting to make plans to switch to digital. And in commercial photography back in the day, all the film was scanned so that it could then be printed. And
Yeah.
so we knew that that middleman, that film, which was our middleman, it was going to go away, and it was going to go away fast. And so there was no part of me that hesitated. My mom was behind me 100%. My first camera cost me $209,000. Yes, that is $209,000. And for some reason, I was too stupid to be afraid.
Well, good for you because you can't be. You just have to go for it. I remember the first one that I got was a Coolpix Nikon, and it had the little lens that flashed out. And I remember walking around. I lived in the city. It was Midtown, and I was taking pictures of neon signs. I was taking pictures of everything for no reason. Do you remember that first foray with that camera? What you were just wanting to take pictures of? How you kind of got your mind wrapped around digital?
Sure. Well, again, going back to being young, I had a client that told me that they were going to either buy the camera themselves and put me out of business, or I could buy it. And so I had to immediately, it was only good for product photography, that camera.
Yeah.
And so I got the camera on a Thursday and I started a catalog the next Monday, because that's just how I rolled at the time. And so, you know, was I excited? No, I wasn't horribly excited about that camera. But when I was able to stop shooting film of my family, so when I was able to get a camera that was handheld, that was good enough for me to take snapshots of my kids' birthdays, that's when I got excited, because the studio work that I was doing with that 3-shot camera in the beginning was not going to revolutionize my business. It just kept me ahead of the curve, so to speak. But when it started going down in size, and when we started getting faster, the computers got faster and smaller. When everything made that transition to a handheld, that's when things got really exciting for me.
Do you still have that $209,000 camera? What happened to it?
I used it for a trade-in for my next camera because
I
at the
gotcha.
time they were letting me. But I will tell you, it was humbling. My husband and I went to Switzerland, and there is a World Camera Museum in Vevey, Switzerland. If you get a chance to go to Vevey,
Wow.
do it.
Okay.
They have every camera that you can possibly imagine. And you can imagine me being humbled to see my first digital camera that was this huge thing in the World Camera Museum in Switzerland. It was pretty humbling.
So when you traded that camera in, how much did the new one cost and how much megapixel, how much clarity did it go up?
Actually, the clarity in pixels went down because
Wow.
it was the sensor got smaller. And so
Gotcha.
that's everything that's happened in the evolution of digital, right down to your new beautiful iPhone that you have. Those sensors are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And you can put as many pixels on there as you want, but you cannot increase the quality until the sensor gets bigger. And so
Right.
that's really still the difference in what I bring to the table along with my visual and the business and all that. But
Yeah.
the second camera cost me $48,000.
Okay.
$48,000. And so that was a huge change. That took it from the 4x5 format down to the 2.25 format. So we went from large cameras to medium format cameras. And then, of course, the next transition was when it made it to the, DSLRs, the 35 millimeters, so to speak. And so that's where we have been up till today. Upgraded all of my cameras this year, and my new cameras cost me $3,500
Okay.
to upgrade my equipment. And the sensor was bigger
Okay.
than the last one. So much of the quality is fantastic. I feel like that the technology right now has just now gotten back to that full lusciousness that I
Right.
had with my first digital camera.
So if you aren't working taking photos professionally for corporate ventures, what do you like taking pictures of? What's your dream day to take pictures of?
Well, first of all, do you ever see an accountant on the beach with his computer?
Right.
Okay.
So you're
And so
done.
sometimes I will tell you, sometimes I'm done. And it's such a misnomer. My dad, my stepdad, and my mother too, they always reminded me that the word amateur is Latin for to love something. And my dad and my stepdad and my mom are both amateurs, even though they're professionals in their own right, because they will pick up a camera 24/7 to take pictures and to capture that. I'm not that way. So I came into the business as an assignment photographer. Somebody has a problem, I solve the problem, I'm done. But two things will get my camera out: my grandchildren and architecture in Europe. I am
Oh,
passionate about architecture in Europe, and it inspires me every single time I go over there and I see an old building that has just been given so much love and so much attention. It just, I don't know, it lights my fire. I took an architecture tour in Copenhagen last year. It was like nothing I've ever seen in my life. And they actually have an architecture institute, a center of architecture there in Copenhagen, a museum. And I spent hours there just fascinating over the Danish architecture. So that'll get my camera out every time.
yeah, I had a Pentax K1000, and when I went to Europe, I went a few times. When I went to Italy and Paris, like the architecture it's wonderful. I mean, the shadows and the majesty and the antiquity and all of that. But at one point, and I could never do this if I thought about it, I got like 30 rolls of film. So this was during 9/11. I was in the back of a water taxi on the morning of September 11th, 2001. So I'm backpacking. I land in Paris on the 4th. I'm just la-di-da doing my thing in Europe. And I went to Venice, made my way down there, and I was getting low on film. And apparently, I had already taken a roll of film and I put another one in. And I went in with all of this architecture, but I double exposed and I went into a Frida Kahlo exhibit and took pictures of all these paintings. And like halfway through the exhibit, someone's running, no, 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 you can't take pictures of this. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I pull it down. So when I get back and do it, I have all of these images of Kahlo paintings there's like all this architecture behind it. And visions of like the Baltic Sea and all this stuff, birds and all this. I could have never done it, and it was unbelievably fascinating because it just double exposed it. Like one layer was like really evident, and the other one was kind of translucent, and it was totally cool.
I
Like,
bet those, do you have those printed on
yeah,
your wall?
I
Because those sounds amazing.
yeah, I will. I'll get them out and scan them, and I will send it over because I need to rescan all of them. But like, there's no way that I could have done that on purpose. It just wouldn't have happened. You know, it was
No,
just
that
because.
sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it was fun. But anyways, in a long-winded way, I love the architecture, and I could literally, I still to this day, and this just shows you how nerding out on photography I can get. I still have dreams of just walking around Manhattan and just getting lost and taking pictures all day long.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
easy to do in places like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, certainly is. So, who's been your hero? Whether it's been in the realm of photography or otherwise, who's been that inspirational force for you in your life?
Boy, that is a tough question because I've been so fortunate in my life that every disaster that I've encountered has had something positive come out of it. So I'm going to say first and foremost, my hero was my longtime skating coach, Barb Loeffner. Barb was mother, sister, friend, disciplinarian. She was my mentor. Once I had children, she stayed alongside me and helped mentor me through my young children. Um, she was tough when she needed to be tough, and she was soft when she needed to be soft. So I would say she was my very first hero. I just, there aren't enough words to explain the impact that she had on my life. My second hero was my longtime assistant, Tina Veter. She was my dad's assistant. And so when my dad got taken out of the business, she said, I think you can do it, and stood by me 30 years until she passed away unexpectedly 4 years ago. So she was my second hero. My lifetime hero is my mom. Um, so many disastrous things. And if you think about it, I think you and I are about the same age.
Yeah.
9/11, the long recession of 08, 09, 10, however many years it affected your business, COVID. I got divorced, had a horrible divorce, and my mom literally bought my camera equipment out of bankruptcy to make sure that I did not quit.
Wow.
And she is not always easy on me, for sure. She's not this coddling type of woman, but she said, Leslie, you are the best photographer this family has ever had. I refuse to let you give up on something that you are so outstanding at. And when I sit back and let myself think about that too much, I get very emotional because I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
I wanted to be done. And here I am all these years later, more successful than I've ever been, creating better photography than I ever have. And I am having a bigger impact on people in my community, both clients and photographers and assistants, making sure that I pass on everything that those strong women passed on to me, that I pass it along to other people in the generations behind me.
So the work you're doing is multi-layered. You're an entrepreneur, you're a businesswoman, you're doing all these things, but at the core of it, you're taking pictures. There's this thing that goes back to being young where you love doing this. It's a mentality. What is it about the act of taking pictures for you? What is it that impels you to continue to do this, to continue to love it? It's a mindset. What is that for you?
Well, I think that I actually love it more now than I did as a young person. So when I got started, there was that fear factor of failure. I'm going to go out and shoot a job. I have no idea how to shoot it. Now there's this inherent muscle memory. I know how to do the exposures and the lighting. I know how to technically create a great image. And because that's muscle memory, it's the heart of creation that now inspires me. I don't have to think about the technical side. It's an ongoing recording. I can focus solely on making the best images that I know how. And I got a new client this year that has just been phenomenal, that is putting me in industrial situations, which is one of my favorite places to take pictures. Put me in a factory, a foundry, dirty, hot, sweaty. That is my love and passion because it's hard. It
Yeah.
is super hard to make something that is either technically dirty, or it's enclosed in a box and you've got to figure out how to get in there to make it look artistic. And when I came through, I did a 4 day shoot for them. I got 3 more days coming up next month. And I saw the excitement on my client's face to look at that computer and say, how did you see that? How did you find that in the middle of a centrifuge and make it look so beautiful? That's what really inspires me, is that they allow me to take my vision, take my 30 years of experience, and say, watch me, I can do this. And it's just exciting every day.
The one thing about photography too is there's all kinds of ways that you can look at just the act of it. You're like, sports photography and portraitures and all these different things. You're freezing moments in time. There's things that you're doing, but ultimately you learn about life. You capture life. You see life in a different way. Like your clients, like how did you see that? And I get that too. Like I didn't even notice that. That's something that you get. It's the photographer's eye. But ultimately, at the end of the day, how is being a photographer helped you as a human being see this world and reality in a different way?
Well, I've just been so blessed with, and I don't know if it's osmosis or if it's genetic, but being able to see light, being able to see lines. It's not just the corporate world that I spend so much time in, but it's the sunset at the end of a day. It's the rebirth of a sunrise as I'm out taking my walk, that whatever yesterday was, I can visually see the beauty in today. And I totally contribute that to photography. I
Yeah.
totally contribute that to, choosing a lens. People don't even understand. They got their phone, they zoom in, they zoom out. They don't even understand the compression factor of what a lens can do. And I feel like that because of my knowledge of compression and uh, all the different things that lenses have taught me, it allows me to see life differently. And I feel that all of that is surrounding by my years of experience behind the camera.
So, what is it that gets you up every day when the alarm goes off and you get up? What impels you to do all of these things as an entrepreneur, as a photographer, as someone that needs to take care of your soul? What is that energy every day for you?
I still haven't accomplished everything I want to. So, all these years that I've been doing it, I still don't think I've taken my best photograph yet. My grandchildren are a huge impact on what I do. They're expensive little suckers because I love to spend money on my grandchildren. And so I want to keep making money, but I also want to show them what it means to be in business. None of the other grandparents are running a business. I also feel like that since my children are not going to take over my business, I wonder maybe if one of my grandchildren would like to get into the field. So there's a lot that gets me up every day. My husband, who's seen me through my darkest days and continues to be my biggest cheerleader, I want to do well for him. I want to make him proud, make my mother proud. There's just a lot every day that it still excites me to live.
So, if you were to walk into a room of everybody that you've worked with, everybody that's known you in a certain capacity, and you could walk to the front of that room, go up to a podium, and show them one photograph that you've taken that would epitomize you, your vision, who you are, what you think about being alive on this planet, what would be a picture that you took that you would show that room?
There's two that I just did this year. So we have a new arena in Noblesville. That's the suburb that I live in. And it is a beautiful piece of architecture. First of all, Ratio Architects did an amazing job on it. And the construction company, F.A. Wilhelm, was my client. And the whole front of it is all glass. And so coordinating with the venue to make sure that every interior light was on. And then I got an amazing angle of the sunset so that you're seeing the lines of the architecture along with the sunset in the background. That's probably my favorite image of this year. And then I did some industrial work that I did for that client I was telling you about. There's one photograph in particular that I am underneath this piece of equipment laying on my back with the 50 millimeter lens wide open at 1.2, and I am focusing on just this beautiful chrome metallic piece of equipment, and all the rest of it blurs out of focus so that you have no idea where I am, and it's just a fantastic shot.
I love it. So, is there a museum or a collection of photographs or art just because, you think in pictures that you love, that you've been to, that you absolutely loved?
Uh, I don't even know if they do it anymore, but there was a collection of they took those big shipping containers and they parked them on Santa Monica Pier out in California, and they put in a display of elephant photography that was taken on a 4x5 camera and blown up to 6 to 12 feet prints.
Wow.
I have never seen any, I mean, yeah, I wept. I absolutely
Wow.
wept. I do not remember. I've got a book right there that I bought from it. I do not remember the name of the exhibit, but it was two or three shipping containers full of these prints. There were people in the water with the elephants. There were elephants just by themselves. And the texture and the lighting and the highlights and shadows of the skin of the elephants, you could just almost feel the texture in
Wow.
that elephant ear. And I literally wept. It was so beautiful.
So if you could get transported to one place on the planet right now to take pictures, where are you going?
That's tough because I've only been to two places in Europe, and I've got so many others that I want to go, but I would probably go back to Lucerne, Switzerland. There
Okay.
is a Jesuit temple on the river right by the bridge, and it is. I'm sure that the Sistine Chapel is more beautiful, but I have to go with what I've seen, and it is made with pink and gold, and literally it is gold. And the ceiling is a barrel ceiling with all the types of things that I assume are in the Sistine Chapel. But I would have to go there because not only was the architecture amazing, but so was the food. And so those were two things that I got together where Copenhagen had better food. We went to three different Michelin star restaurants, and I highly recommend it. There's like 15 of them in Copenhagen because I do food and architecture. Those
Yeah.
are my two loves are food
Yeah.
and architecture. So if we're going to do them together, I'm going to go back to Lucerne, Switzerland.
So if you get to the Sistine Chapel, I went, and it took forever to get to the actual painting. You're just going and everybody's going. There is so much architecture and paintings from the Renaissance era. It's mind-blowing how many things. You just continue. It's almost like you're in some weird MC Escher forever prank. Like it just keeps going. Keep going this way, Sistine Chapel, keep going this way. And you're just going through room after room, and there's just all this antiquity. And then St. Peter's is just, it's crazy. When you get in that ring and you see all of those figurines of popes and deities up there, it's just like it's crazy. Anyway, so that spend some time there.
Well, I have to ask if you had to do one, would you do France or Italy?
Italy, hands down.
Okay,
I
because
mean,
I'm headed to Germany this year. That's my trip this year. Is I'm going up the Rhine. I'm doing a river cruise
oh
up
yeah,
the Rhine in December for Christmas, the
yeah.
Christmas markets.
Oh, nice.
But my next one, I would love to do Italy or France.
Yeah, Italy's amazing. Paris is mind-blowing. I went to, I think it was the Musée d'Orsay. It was like a modern museum, and I finally got up like 4 floors and looked down over Paris, and it's unbelievable how many things are packed in, the level of architecture. But Italy is just so, there's just so many layers to it that's amazing. So I mean
All
that's where
right,
my
that's going to be
family.
on my list.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do it. So, of all of the things that you've done in your life, accomplished and evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of?
My kids.
Yeah.
I've got two amazing children, both different in every single way, but they are happy most of the time, and they are good, genuine people. So that's probably the first thing that I'm the most happy about. The second thing I would have to say is my resiliency. There have been so many things in my career that I should have given up, and I many times I almost did. Went back and got my master's at 50 years old, got my MBA because I was going to get out of the business. Turns out the MBA helped me be more successful. So you know those things, and to still be here in business all these years later with all of the difficulties that have come both economically and technologically in my career. I'm pretty darn proud to still be here today. But man, my adult children are just such great people. They're fun to be around.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that sees your work, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Some days I think I'm a badass, and other days I think I'm an imposter. I think most artists would say the same thing.
Yeah.
But my impression of myself to be very, real. I care about everybody that I work with, whether it's my team members. I've got administrators, salespeople, social media assistants, photographers, or whether it's my clients that come from all backgrounds. And I think that I care about them, and I think they know that. I think that when I find out that I've got somebody that's got a parent with cancer, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write them a letter, and I'm going to just say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When somebody celebrates on my team, I'm going to celebrate with them. So I think that my heart and my empathy for those people around me, that's my greatest gift.
So if anyone wants to hire, have any questions for Studio 13, anything that you're doing, any of the good business, where do they go?
They go to studio13online.com. Terrible website, I know, I apologize. They can find me on LinkedIn, both Studio 13 and Leslie Lane. We're also on Instagram, Studio 13 Indie.
Okay. Why Studio 13? You obviously have embraced 13. Why is that?
I was born on the 13th. I have 13 letters in my name, and I was the 13th member of my grandfather's family.
Okay. I was born on October 13th, Friday, so I'm not afraid of that day. So I get
Yeah.
it. Totally
Yeah,
am.
but me and T Swift are December 13th.
Oh, cool. Very cool. There you go. See? You
Shout
got
out to Taylor.
That's it. You got the absolute connection to Kansas City and the Chiefs and all of that. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. Well, hey.